And now, weighing in out of the blue corner, Josh the Punk Thomson. 100%. And on the other mic, he weighs in from the red corner, Big John McCarthy.
Well, hello to everyone and welcome to the Weighing In podcast, where we complain so much about our last show, not our show, the UFC show, that they're not going to have one this weekend. So we're just going to talk about news and things like that because they need to reorganize what's going on, get these fighters to go for finishes. That's the most important thing. You know that, my man. How's it going, Joshua Thomson?
Man, fights were back, and guess what? Now they're gone.
They took them away.
That was very short-lived. We were all excited. 2 shows at 2 weeks.
2 weeks.
No, we had at least
they teased us.
At least
they
the
teased
first
us.
show was good. The second show, pay-per-view, the one we paid for, wasn't that great, but there was some fun. So guess what? This show is going to be mainly all just Q&A and some news talk and whatever else we can think of on the fly. So we're going to give you guys a show here today, and hopefully you guys enjoy the show. Before you guys do anything else, though, make sure you guys smash the subscribe button. Smash the subscribe button right there. That means like smash, hit it, push it hard, whatever it is. I don't even know what it is. Smash it, and let's get this thing going, man.
Smash your boy.
Smash your boy. Smash the subscribe button. Hit the little thumbs up and the bell for the notifications. Well, thank you guys so much for always supporting us. John, I think we're going to start off with some Ian Garry trash talk. Is that what we're starting off with today, buddy?
Let's go, Dave. Tell us, man. He called John, but I know he was talking to you.
Yeah. So we had Ian Garry make fun of the performance of Strickland, the UFC 297. He puts out his little reaction and says, "I felt like I'm watching 2 amateurs fight. If I ever have a fight like that, please tell me to retire." So comments were made. Some, like, for example, Johnny Eblin's putting out there, he's not impressed with Ian Garry pulling out of his own fight. So that, don't know where Ian Garry really gets to the grounds to like make comments like that. Obviously just taking a shot at Sean because Sean's taking shots at him. Sean does, though, come out with a reply saying, "Fuck you, Ian, you cuck, saying my boxing is sloppy. I would sleep you if we fought. Then I would sleep with your sloppy wife while you watch."
Damn. All right. As I say, do not get into pulling family members into the trash talk. Like, Sean can say what he wants about Garry. I'm not saying he should have been upset. Stop with the wife stuff, man. Stop. Josh, tell him stop.
John, you've hung out with me enough now. Like, I don't take this shit personal. Like, my whole life has been like being involved with fighting for so many years. And I never was a trash talker. I never wanted to get into it. I never cared for it. And I thought it brought more tension and stress to the fight, more pressure that I didn't need. Like, fighting's already stressful enough. You guys are making it worse. Now I get it. It actually brings more eyeballs to you, but it could be,
but they're not even in the same weight class.
Yeah, I get it.
They're at different levels within the sport right now. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but I think that's what even makes it worse, though, because Ian Garry is the one speaking, and he's not on their level. He's not on Dricus's level. He's not on Sean Strickland's level. Sean Strickland is a champion. Call it what it was, but he beat somebody that money thought was kind of unbeatable a little bit there. He was 20-something and 1, I think, was what Izzy was when and Sean beat him. I mean, 20-2 after he lost to Jan, but it's, you know what I mean? Like, in that mix of Sean's performed at the highest level, didn't have a great fight last fight, and neither did Dricus. Neither one of them did.
But sometimes styles make fights, and sometimes, an awkward style. I truly believe that DDP's style is very awkward.
Yeah,
and it's caused everyone problems. And I think it took Sean out of his rhythm that he's comfortable with, and he's got to learn how to take somebody like that and make his style work against it. But I'm going to be honest. He's sitting there talking about, if I ever fight like that, these are 2 amateurs, tell me to retire or something. Man, son, step up and fight DDP. Step up and fight Sean. Yeah. Talk is cheap.
Well,
step up and fight him.
Well, look, he hasn't fought at the level. He hasn't fought anybody in that top 5. Doesn't matter. He hasn't fought. He's not there yet. And from what I've seen from his fights, he's not like, he's close. He's got skill.
He's good.
He's got skill.
I'll give him. He's good.
He's got a good body style for the actual MMA world. I give him credit, man. He's got a lot of natural talent. He's got a lot. I'm sure he works hard to get himself there. But the bottom line is you haven't fought for a world title yet. So don't criticize people while they're in the middle of a world title fight, discussing how, if I fight like that, these guys look like amateur boxers. Son, you've never been there. And here's the other thing. You may never get there.
You might not.
And so
I know
there's
been a lot of guys, that have had really good careers that have never made it to that title fight. Every time that they're one fight away, they lose, and they never get there.
But look,
happens.
But look at the other thing. On the flip side of that, though, is I know a lot of guys that have gotten there 2 or 3 times and still haven't won it.
That's true.
Getting in that cage to win a world title is just something's different about it. And I can't say that there's more pressure, because sometimes people are more relaxed when they get out there. They look, I've reached what my goal was to get here. Now my other goal is to win it, obviously. But like the goal for some was just to get there. Like, hey, to say that I fought for the world title. I've known a lot of fighters that said, like, man, all I gotta do is just fight for the world title, and I know I'm gonna win. But if you thought you were gonna win, you would have said, "Oh, I'm gonna win that world title." You would have said it differently. So it's for him to come across the way he did. It was just very shallow, but whatever, man. Look, once you start going at each other's wives and girlfriends and family, and if you want to keep it to fighting styles, cool, But Ian went off on somebody about something, and then Sean came back and did something to Ian off of the whole wife thing. I mean, it just starts becoming contagious. Now you're giving people ammo. I think I saw, who was that I saw? Henry Cejudo. He was talking about with Sean. I think Sean had said some stuff. And he goes, man, stop. Just don't talk. Like, I'm sorry, but when you are a fighter and you're going to be out there publicly, keep shit to yourself, man. Like, I'm sorry, but guys got to learn to guys have always had to do this. We've always had to bottle shit up inside, John, until eventually it comes out. And the way we get that shit to come out is by fighting. You can walk down at school, you're having a bad day, and finally just someone popped off at you, and that's how the fight started. It wasn't anything that person did. It was just the way that they looked at you. It was the way that it aggravated you. You didn't like
the attitude.
It was the attitude. It was the way that they talked. They said something in class you just didn't care about, and you were just having a bad day. But we don't go and tell, in that all that emotion is that we're not telling them why I had a bad day. Dad yelled at me that morning. Mom was mad, whatever it was. Sister was stealing my shit or taking my money out of my safe, whatever it was. Right? It could be anything. But we weren't telling people. Men don't normally tell people what their problem is. Now in today's society, guess what? Everyone's got to tell everyone about their home life, their personal business. They want a little bit of that feel back, people coming to them going, oh, you're all right. It's okay. And I'm sorry, but the men just have not been accustomed to that over the last 100 years. Am I right or am I wrong, John?
I think you're totally right. I mean, it's one of those, but it's one of the things that's like, Sean Strickland kind of talks about is that, and it's what the media wants out of him. Let's just be honest. They're asking him leading questions, hoping that he comes up with these answers that he comes up with at times that you go, oh God, stop. Okay. But the media, I mean, they're searching for it. Mm-hmm. I thought Dana actually said the right thing. It's like, you go out there and you ask Sean Strickland about what are you expecting him to say? You know what he's going to say. You want him to say it. And it's like, you got to get to the point where I do appreciate that Dana, for the most part, stays out of the trash talk. He says, hey, we let freedom of speech, we let people talk. Okay. But when you have things like this, then you have to put them together, because that's the only way to solve it. Put those guys together, put them in a fight. That'll solve it. That'll be where, the trash talk's going to end eventually.
Yeah, it's going to end. I guess me going back to men just not talking about this type of stuff. Keep this shit inside, because now you give somebody you may one day share the cage with. I don't know. I don't think they'll ever share the cage with Ian Garry, but I'm simply saying, I don't think so. But the thing is, you're going to be at events together. Probably you're going to be around the same type of stuff, whether it's, International Fight Week or whatever they call it now these days, whether it's at an event cornering a friend, whatever it is. You may cross paths, when you're in town, at each other's gyms, and maybe come through,
the PI.
Yeah, exactly. The Performance Institute for the UFC. You may cross paths. And what's going to happen then? And so I guess for me, men have always had to keep their shit bottled up inside, because we're the first ones to go ahead and trigger that. Oh, let's just fucking fight. Because that's what.
Well, but see, that's the difference. I'm going to put it out there and say it. That's the difference between men and women. As a man, no matter what, if you go and you say certain things like we're getting from both sides here, as a man, that when I see that person, there's a possibility based upon what I said that there's going to be an altercation. Yeah. There's going to be a fight. It's going to break out. And that's the chance that you take by what you say. Mm-hmm. There's always a consequence that goes with it. Women kind of don't have that the same way. They talk and they don't really get into the altercations quite as often as the men. But it's the one thing that keeps men kind of in check, is that, hey, you go ahead and say it. Someone might put you in your place because of it. And it's okay that you're a fighter. Fighting is fighting, but there's a big difference between fighting in the cage and fighting when you're not in the cage. You ain't getting paid. Yeah. Not real smart.
Yep. Could have charges pressed against you. All these things.
Yep. Well, look at Colby Covington with Masvidal. Yeah. Look at what happens.
Yeah. Well, this all stems, I think some of it stems from just the performance with Sean and with Dricus. Ian wasn't impressed with that. But then you also brought up the media and how the media is going to ask questions. Sean apparently, I think, can you pull up a picture of Sean at the media press conference, Dave? Sean apparently had a t-shirt on. I can't remember what it said. And when
something about
women should be in the kitchen
and guns in your hand.
I want to remind you, there's a pretty popular female podcaster. Can't remember her name. She actually makes these shirts that say women should be in the kitchen
or something like that.
What's her name?
Oh, Pearly Things.
Okay, there you go. So what is she?
She says women shouldn't vote.
Women shouldn't vote. Is there one also too that says women should be in the kitchen? Anyway, so women
shares a sentiment.
Okay, so but when I was going back to this media thing, so it's not as if like it's a thing that just men are saying. There are women out there that believe that women shouldn't vote, I guess, or should be in the kitchen, whatever it is. I don't understand the logic on this, but what I am going to go ahead and say is the media. If it is media,
I'll explain the logic once you're done.
Okay, when the press is there, the media is there, and you're asking questions during fight week. Why are you asking stuff about his shirt? It has nothing to do with the fight. He wore it that day. You're doing it. Wait, he's doing it. Sean's doing it for attention. Yes, people to talk about it and whatever it is. But if you're the media, if you're the true MMA media, ask questions about the fight, because you asking questions like this for a response from Sean, you're doing it for clickbait.
You're baiting.
That's it. There any other reason not to ask about his opponent, not to ask about the promotion, not to ask about the fight itself, or to ask about what's next? That is you trying to get clickbait material for your own purpose and your own platform and your own website, whatever it is. That has nothing to do. If you are a true media, MMA media person, you should have been asking about the fight. Asking any other way, any other questions otherwise, is you're trying to get clickbait material.
Yeah, they know that Sean is a person who's going to just pop off and say something, and they want that. But the whole thing with the voting and stuff, and really what it comes down to is, and I'm not saying I agree with it, but it's women have a right to vote, and those votes count in a way that can cause men to have to go and do certain things. Conscription, meaning the draft. Mm-hmm. You got to figure women started being able to vote somewhere right around the 1920s. is when that, the right to vote came in for him. That was just after World War I. How many women were drafted for World War I? 0. Then you start having people that are having votes into the say of government when they don't have the same obligations or consequences that men are going to have by, you get into wars, you're going to get drafted, you're going to go to war, you could die. Where the woman who voted for things that caused this now situation, she doesn't have those same things. And I know that's the side that people talk about. Do I agree with it? No, I'm not saying I agree with it. I think everyone should have a right to vote. But, that's what it comes from.
Yeah, I think if you're the media, you shouldn't during fight week. And I think if you're a fighter, don't answer questions like that. You have something to talk. You have a question about my opponent. I will ask it
about my fight.
I don't care
about how I trained, about what I think he does.
I don't care what I'm wearing on my shirt. I'm doing it for me. I don't care. If you have a question about my opponent,
but it's going to come down to why are you wearing that shirt?
None of your business.
Because they're gonna pry.
None of your business.
And that's what you need to say.
Yeah, it's none of your business.
Because I want to.
Can I give you a counterpoint to give you like something to argue against then? So you've obviously, the guy who asked the question that sparked this whole thing was worked for MMA Fighting. Ariel Helwani's associated with MMA Fighting. Ariel did a piece on his show about, well, of course, if you're going to wear the t-shirt, you're provoking that type of response.
That's not true.
That's not true. I can't. So go ahead, Dave. Sorry.
Yeah. So of course, he's in the media, right? Ariel's in the media, so he's looking at it with the media lens, and so you guys have just kind of laid your point out from fighter lens and part of the sport lens. But so then, how do you rebut something like that, like a point like that?
So you're saying that it's okay for him to give a reaction like that or have questions like that because Sean has a shirt on?
Because Sean made so he followed up on comments Sean had made, right? The media guy asked Sean a question about comments Sean had made, right? So the idea is that Sean, you made the comment, so you're accountable
for those comments,
right? So of course, if we want to ask a question about it, it's fair game because you made the comments in the first place. It's kind of the argument.
Yeah. Were the comments made in fight week?
Was
this really what Sean was this on? Did Sean make these comments during fight week or during the press conference?
He said a lot of stuff during the Izzy build up.
That has nothing to do with this fight. This is a different fight. What I said 3 weeks ago has nothing to do with this week in fight week. Doesn't matter. It shouldn't matter. Like, why? If you are a true MMA media, you should be asking about the fight. Doesn't matter what he's wearing. You're saying you can't control yourself enough because that provoked you so much you had to ask about the t-shirt? I thought we were professionals here. Be professional and ask about the fight. Ask about how his camp went. Ask about his coaches. Ask about anything to do with the fight. That is your job. Not to stir up bullshit about his t-shirt. He wore it. You saw it. You read it. You guys can talk amongst yourself beyond, but it's not fight related. Why are you asking it? That's it. That's the bottom line. Do your job. Your job is to ask about the fight. Build up the fight. And do your job. Cover the fight. Do your job. That's it. It's not to ask you about that. It's not you are prying. If you want to write your own thing about it, go right ahead. What your thoughts are on it, go right ahead. That's your opinion on it. That's all. But during fight week, why ask that question knowing that you're going to stir more up? You're going to stir it up even more, knowing that there's going to be more stuff coming on and he's trying to focus on the fight. Maybe that shirt makes him feel more comfortable. Who knows? But you guys should care more about the fight and not about his stupid ass shirt. That's where this goes. And I saw some of the Ariel interview or the Ariel thing about how, well, Dana didn't used to be that way. When Dana wasn't that way before, things were different. There wasn't a lot of this. Things were just different in that time.
The sport was in a different position.
Absolutely.
With a different criteria of everyone was saying we were barbarians. Everyone was saying we were thugs. Everyone was saying we're trying to kill each other. And Dana was trying to get people, especially educated fighters, ones with college degrees, to act like you had a college degree, speak like you have a college degree. Don't give the media the ammunition they're looking for to say that you're a barbaric thug. That was back when, 2000, 2001, 2002. Dana was facing that all the time. So yeah, he's going to want to slow people down. Now he's mainstream. I'm letting people do what they want. These are fighters. This is what they're going to do. But Sean does have to be smart enough to do exactly what you're doing. And just sit there and say, hey, you want to ask me a question about the fights? Mm-hmm. Let's go. You want to ask me a question about my shirt? Fuck off.
Well, there's a couple ways of approaching this. Bueno Silva said, I love Sean. She apparently is gay. I didn't know she was gay, but she's apparently gay. Bueno Silva. She said they had brought up comments about Sean Strickland.
Oh, that's because Sean said something about the Pennington versus South
okay,
fight.
and then Raquel Pennington after the fight had clarified some stuff too. Like, Sean, if you want to have a talk, we can sit down and talk. That could not have been a better answer.
No.
Because no reason to say something that's going to get the media involved to stir the pot even more. Shut the media down. Stop giving them clickbait shit and just say, look, if Sean wants to talk to me, I'd love to sit down. And that's exactly what she said. If you want to sit down with me, we can learn a lot from each other. I couldn't have asked for a better answer.
Response.
Yeah. Absolutely. And it just, and when I go back to the Ariel situation where with Ariel, I really believe when Ariel's talking about, well, Dana didn't do this, Dana did this back then. Dana was telling people not to do this and do this back then. I get that. I understand what you're talking about, but right off the top of my head, I'm not exactly on which times. He's had like Forrest Griffin had to apologize for something for, I guess, a date rape ban or something like that. Or I don't know, something like that. There were some comments made by Forrest. There were some comments made by someone else. And these are just things off the top. And then they later had to come out and put out an apology. I want to remind people, though, like not just, but Ariel as well, that this country and everything that's going on right now in the world was at a way different place. So to try to relate the two things, right now, people are being shut down from their jobs, like because they didn't want to get a jab.
People are being silenced.
Yeah, they're being silenced and shut down completely. Like, people are getting people to lose their job. People are getting people fired. People are when that happens, children are not being fed. More homelessness is being created. All of these things, just because someone said someone mean that you couldn't handle. Not you per se. I'm not saying this about Ariel. Just want to make sure we're clarifying that. I'm just saying about in general. We are in a different place than we were, okay, when those situations and circumstances happened back then.
But even back then, I do not recall Dana ever getting rid of a fighter based upon something they said.
Miguel Torres, that was one of them. He said something, I guess got fired and then got brought back. I think is what Ariel brought up. One of them was Miguel Torres. He got fired for something. And then then he was
because I do remember Dana getting rid of fighters for fighting outside of the cage. He did that several times with people, and it's like,
I'm glad it wasn't me.
It was close.
He was at UFC 42.
Yeah, I know. I was going to say you had two more shows to go.
Josh, even you have that personal experience, right, with Dana, where like Dana was asked about comments that you got some controversy for back around that time, and even Dana then was like, if he just didn't like you at that time. He's clearly just didn't like you, but as far as your comments, like he didn't. It's not like he held it against you or he was going to cut you or anything like that. I mean,
yeah, but that was another situation where people on social media got a hold of it and I just started pitching an argument to people that I don't even know, and the argument was simply, it was. I didn't want to really get into that, but it just
I can cut it in if you want.
Hold it. If you want it, you just do it. We're telling Sean Strickland. You want to talk about the fight? No, I'm not talking about it.
Yeah, I mean, it really just came down to Dana said, like, I thought he said some stupid stuff, and I thought he needs to stop with that. Not only that, he's like, there's things that you need to leave out. Leave politics out of all your post-fight speeches, and leave religion out of all your post-fight speeches. It's pretty clear. I mean, like, if you want to thank God, okay? But let's not get drawn on about all this, because you're turning a lot of people off. Look, whatever. Do whatever you want when you have the mic in your hands. Just know that some people are going to like it and some people are not. You could be the richest guy in the world trying to solve world hunger, and people are going to fucking hate you. There's the thing with the beast going around with the social media.
Oh my God.
He's trying to do wells or whatever in Africa, and apparently
he was doing it. He put more water there than anyone, and they're all sitting there saying, he's just doing it for the fame.
No, they said we don't need anything from the white guy. That was the actual complaint, was that we don't need anything from the white guy.
Who's saying it? The people that are getting the water?
No, it's not that.
Not the people getting the water.
So stupid. But overall, look, the overall view of this is that we went in from Ian Garry to Sean Strickland, and Dricus even had a comment to Ian Garry, don't worry, he'll never be in this type of fight, because he'll never have to fight for a title.
See, but that was
a great comment, and then like I said, my overall was Raquel Pennington. Absolutely amazing. Great job. And I think when you sit two people down in front of each other, it's so funny how a lot of this drama shit goes away. Whether look, it could be. Garrett and I have had our beefs. I've had some problems with some other guys as well. But every time I seem to see them in person, it doesn't seem like there's a problem. I don't have a problem with anyone. And if I do, then let's just hash it out. If you feel like there is one there, let's hash it out. In this situation, Sean, I don't think has a problem with Raquel Pennington. Bueno Silva, any of them. I don't think he has a problem with any female that is gay or trans or what. It doesn't matter. I don't think.
Hold on, that wasn't the point that he was making.
No,
it had nothing to do with someone being gay or anything like that. He doesn't care. I don't think anyone cares.
Yeah, in this shirt, it doesn't say vote. It says a woman in every kitchen and a gun in every hand.
It kind of says vote for Sean Strickland 2024.
Yes, it does, Sean. Interesting.
But I look at that. The comment that Sean was making was that the women are not as entertaining to watch as the men. They're not as good, so they're not as entertaining. Now, I don't agree with that. I enjoy, when women compete at a high level and are really some of the best damn fights we've ever seen are between women. Mm-hmm. Okay. But now if you're going to sit there and say, okay, take that woman and put her against a man, who's going to win? Okay, that's ridiculous. That's stupid. Mm-hmm. There's a reason why we have women's sports, and that's for women to compete and compete on a level that they have equal footing in. You don't put the woman against a man and say, oh, now who's going to win? Who gives a shit?
No.
But
all right, I think we've exhausted this one.
You think?
We've exhausted it.
Well, let's move to a more happy note then, and we'll bring you into this next story here. Frankie Edgar getting announced as the next inductee in the Hall of Fame. What do you guys think?
Absolutely, as deserved as anyone there is. When I tweeted something, Frankie Edgar, congratulations, you deserve that as much as anyone ever, and I mean that. I'm not saying that there's not other people that deserve it as much as him, but no one has ever deserved it more. The guy, for a career, put on incredible fights, showed incredible, heart, just always seemed to be against the odds, fought for the title at 155 and won it against BJ Penn. He's got 3 wins against BJ, and that's when BJ was fighting well, when he was champion, and fought for the 145-pound title, fought for the 135-pound. I mean, the guy is just remarkable that he was competitive in 3 different weight classes, competitive throughout his career, was a champion, and did it all with class.
Absolutely.
Every time you saw him, he's just a happy, good guy who, he wasn't, obviously he wasn't the strongest. He wasn't the heaviest hitter. He wasn't the best wrestler. He just put it all together to where he was goddamn good at all of them.
Yeah, if you haven't had an opportunity, go back and watch, I believe it was his first fight in the UFC against Tyson Griffin. Just an absolute great fight. 2 little ferrets. When I started using that as I
thought both of them were going to have tore up knees in that damn fight.
When I started using that little analogy of 2 little ferrets grappling, it was because of that fight. These guys were just scrambling around in the wrestling, the jiu-jitsu, all of these things. And then he came and trained shortly after that at AKA and absolutely loved. He lived with me, him and one of his good buddies. And it just was Chris Ligori. I was trying to remember his last name. But Chris Ligori used to come, and the answer and the story was their nicknames.
Yep.
And they good people, man. Had a great time. They came and trained for like 10 days or so, and then eventually they just moved in with me and came back out a couple more times for some camps. But just an overall fantastic human being. And then on top of I can't say this enough, he did the most with what he had. And what I mean by that is that I could not believe that he was fighting at 155. I couldn't believe it.
Dude, he was weighing in at 155 pounds.
Oh, yeah.
Fully hydrated, fully going out for breakfast. I mean, he was making it without cutting weight.
Yeah, he maybe had to skip a meal.
Yeah.
It was like, okay, well, I don't got to eat the night before. I'll wake up on weight. Like he was not a big guy. He was fast. He had great wrestling. His transitions from
Great
one
cardio.
takedown to the next, his cardio, the way he could push the pace. I mean, he looked tired sometimes, but then he pushed through and drove through. So mentally strong. I look at him, and we were just talking about fighters that had got one or two tries at a title shot. Gray Maynard was a training partner of mine. Fought twice for the world title, came up short. Kenny Florian 3 times fought for a world title, came up short. There's been guys, plenty of people in there that have come up short and never gotten back to that position. Frankie Edgar was there. And unfortunately, I feel bad for him in one area. He was only able to fight rematches when he was the champ, which was the shittiest situation, is that he fought BJ, then a rematch. Then he fought Benson, then a rematch. It was like always a rematch for him because the fights were so close. But then I also look at it too, is he ended up going down to 45, and he went down to 45. I would say a little bit towards the not end of his career, but towards the end of his prime, he started to go down towards 45 a little bit.
And had 2 unbelievable battles against
Aldo. Yes. He had a great knockout over Chad Mendez. I mean, he just,
oh my God, I did that fight.
Yeah.
Unbelievable. I was
surprised.
You talk about that moment where I thought if someone was going to get knocked out, it could be Frankie because Chad had power.
Yeah.
And Frankie hit him. And I'm telling you, I watched Chad go out. I mean, he was out and hit the ground and kind of came back and Frankie, and I stopped it. And Chad had no idea what had happened, but it was like Frankie Edward, when he had, especially when he had someone coming towards him, man, he popped. He could put someone's lights out. He put Chad Mendez's lights out.
John over here trying to justify his stoppage.
Incredible performance because I thought that fight was going to go for a while.
Yeah. When I trained with Frankie, the feet on the hips, how this was back in the day, feet on the hips, kick him back, right? I could launch him back a good 5-6 feet, but by the time I could get back towards or up close to my feet, he was already back on top of me. Like he was so quick. He understood exactly what I was doing. He knew how to work. He knew how to go hard. He was one of the best training partners I ever had, ever coming up, man. It was awesome. When he had the second fight with Benson, I mean, I went out to New Jersey, trained out there for a week with him, about 10 days, I think. And then, I trained the whole time, southpaw for him, just to get ready for the Benson fight. I thought he won the second Benson fight. First fight, I could see how they gave it to Benson, but the second fight,
Benson won the first one.
Yeah, I thought Benson won the first one. And even though I was going for Frankie, Benson won the first one. But the second one, I thought for sure it was Frankie's. Yeah. I was just in shock. And then he ended up going down to 45. I wonder what he would have been able to do. Continue to do at 145 because he was at his best at 145 because he was faster, his footwork, his wrestling, his chain wrestling, his guillotines were really good. His ability to keep the top position, being such a small guy, all of it came together at 155. As he started going down in weight, it became harder and harder because the guys down there were getting faster, and some of them were developing the power at the 145. And Aldo with the leg kicks and all the other things, but he is definitely I'm surprised. I'm not surprised, I should say. I was like, man, I'm surprised they didn't try to induct him before he retired. Because he was just one of those guys that you knew. I mean, he fought Fought almost for. He didn't fight for a world title at 135, correct?
I think I want to say that he was right there.
I know he was right there, but I don't think he ever did fight for a title at 35.
I could be wrong in that.
I thought there was a guy that was there that he was supposed to.
He did not.
No. Nope. Boy, was it Max?
No,
No, because Max would have been 45.
Oh,
Ortega
that's right.
was
Sorry,
45.
Max.
Yair was 45.
Yeah.
So
Got it.
all those. Munoz would have been his first at 135.
Yeah. Got it. I mean, overall, great career. Always fought his ass off. And, I mean, everyone knows the historic fights with him and Gray Maynard and what he went through in those fights.
And when you talk about those, Gray Maynard was a big 155er.
Yeah.
Gray Maynard was a put together stud and could wrestle. And Gray Maynard had him in trouble in, almost in all three. He fought him 3 times, but 2 of those, the championship ones, were incredible fights. Incredible.
Gray Maynard's the only guy in practice I never was able to take down. That son of a bitch. He could fucking wrestle, man. And he was
wrestle.
cock strong.
He was the bully.
He bullied me around the cage quite a bit, man. He was horrible to train with. I mean, he was fantastic to train with. I mean, you know what I mean? It was just, it was very painful at times. But man, he was a walking book of knowledge. The guy shared his information. He didn't hold anything back, and he was just absolutely just a beast to train with, man. Big power in his hands, and after getting hit by him and seeing what Frankie went through with little gloves, being able to survive and then come back and get a draw and then a win and get a knockout, I should say, just says a lot about Frankie. But I felt like he was cursed with his rematches. His whole title run was all rematches. It was Gray Maynard. It was BJ Penn. It was, Benson Henderson, all rematches. I would have liked to have seen him have more opportunities to fight other people. He was constantly training for the same fight over and over. And I was like, this sucks. But it was awesome. It was awesome to see him come up the way he was. And definitely a first ballot Hall of Famer. Congratulations to our boy, Frankie Edgar.
All right, let's look at this next one here. We have Khamzat out saying that he was promised the next fight for the title after he was promised if he beat Usman, he would get the title fight. Obviously, Dana's like, not making any plans publicly for what that looks like right now. But Khamzat's saying if he'd be surprised if the title fight for the 185 is not him next. What do you guys think? Is he deserving? Is he really the next guy? Are there other ones that make sense in there, or should he be there getting a title shot?
Go ahead.
I mean, I've said it over and over. I'm not sold on him yet. As much as I look, I think he's a great fighter. I think he's a really good fighter. I'm not quite sold on him yet. I want to see more. And it has nothing to do with, I think he's marketable. I like that he's got a talking mouthpiece. He talks specifically about the fighters. Like, I used to beat Sean up in the training room. Yeah, but we're talking about practice. That's not what we do around here. Okay. Like, it really comes down to beating somebody up in the training room doesn't mean shit. It has to do with the other. You can get it done out there. I have seen you are good out there in the cage. We've seen it, but we've also seen lapses of
seen him struggle.
We've seen you struggle. Gilbert Burns is a fantastic fighter. Gilbert Burns dropped you, and then you fought a Kamaru Usman, who is a 70-pounder, beefed up on short notice, and it shouldn't have been that close. You had a full camp ready to go. You talk about you talked about your wrestling. You talked about this. You talked about that. I didn't see it in that fight.
Saw it in the first round.
Yeah.
But
the knock's always been to me, John, is the cardio.
There's no doubt. It is a problem because if there's one thing that you can look and say is that, look, he's a monster, especially in the first round. He's got good wrestling. Now, there are people out there that can stop his wrestling. Okay. But he's got really good wrestling. And when he can dominate in the wrestling, he's a motherfucker in that first round because he's all over people. He's putting pressure on him. He's landing big shots, but he gets tired. Conor McGregor is a motherfucker in the first round. Let's just be honest. He is got power in his hands. He hurts people in the stand-up, and he's someone that you've got to get through that first round. But once you get through the first round, they're not quite the same fighter going into the second, especially going into the third. And Khamzat has shown his weakness right now is not that he's not in shape. He's in shape. He doesn't know how to control the fight the way he needs to and take those moments to grab air and settle down and then come back into the fight and maintain that pace that he can go the full 3 or 5 rounds. You know, if there's one thing that, you know, Du Plessis showed in his fight against Strickland, I was thinking that, you know, I've seen him get tired. He showed I can disrupt someone's rhythm and I can control that and I can go the 5 rounds. Khamzat's going to have to do that. I look and truthfully, you know, if you pull up his record right now, he's got a win against Mearshart at 185. Okay. That was a long time ago, but he's got that win. All right. But if you pull up his record right now, how many fights against 185ers does he have?
Well, he's got a win against Kevin Holland at 180.
Yeah.
It's an 85 pounder.
He's not. He's a 170 pounder.
But John, I'm saying,
he used to fight 185.
What I'm saying though, that's an 85 pound match. So you could
it was
technically rank him in the 80s, in the 85s.
But he's only had 2, and both those guys, Kamaru Usman is a 170 pounder, and Kevin Holland right now is what? 170 pounder. So he hasn't even had those fights. Yeah, those were at 185. I'm not saying they're not, but still, he's not taking on the guys that are in the top 5 of the middleweights. Not there yet. And that's where I say he needs to have a solid fight. You know, put him against, you know, an Israel Adesanya, put him against a Jared Cannonier, put him against a Robert Whittaker, put him against Marvin Vettori. I don't care. But those are the guys that's going to tell me exactly where you're at, because a lot of them are going to survive that first round and they're going to put the pressure on you and they're going to make you tired. And these guys are of your size. Because he's long, he's got power, he's strong, but he gasses. And to sit there and say that off of the Kamaru Usman win, let's be honest, he got the win, no doubt about it. That third round, who won it?
Yeah.
Kamaru Usman did. And if there was a fourth round, I think it was going to be Kamaru Usman winning that one too. So I'm saying the same thing. I agree that right now you need to show me that you can beat one of the top 185ers.
I said it after the Kamaru Usman fight. I'm not sold on him. That was 1. 2 is Dana White, I think, had the impression that he was going to go out there and dominate Kamaru Usman because Kamaru took it on 1 week's notice. Yeah. Definitely wasn't in shape. And then Kamaru ended up having better conditioning than him in the third round. So that had to make Dana reevaluate what he had said to him. Like, if you beat Kamaru, you beat him dominantly or whatever it is, you get the next title shot. There was a lot of hype around him. And I would agree with the hype at the time when it was coming up, when he was coming up for the 70 pounders or whatever it was. He had some dominant performances during the COVID era. Then he got COVID real bad, apparently. And he was out. That's when we started seeing that his condition.
Yeah, he was saying he was never going to fight again.
Yeah. So how bad are your lungs? Because look, there's a couple guys that I know that are here that are fighters, but used to be fighters. They got COVID so bad that it fucked up their lungs. Now they can't fly on a plane. So they literally went down to CPI stem cells to try to get treatment for it. So they did the IV, I want to say 150 million stem cells at CPI to see if that would help with their recovery. And they're still not able to fly, but it's only been about 2-3 months, two and a half months. But these are because there's results showing that stem cells will help your lungs after being damaged from COVID. Now, I don't know to what extent. Obviously, everyone's body's different. But the friend that I know, he's not able to quite fly yet. So he's got to actually drive everywhere to all of his son's wrestling matches.
Yeah, so that's crazy because you're thinking a plane pressurizes at 10,000 feet.
He can't. He tried doing a short little flight from here down to Houston, and he's not able to fly. He's like, it was so painful. So painful. I felt like I couldn't get a breath. I couldn't breathe deep. He's like, I couldn't get it. So he has to drive. Like, his son just wrestled in Stanford and then just wrestled again up in Oregon. So he had to drive all the way from Texas, all the way to the West Coast, and then up the coast, and then all the way back here. It's crazy. So I can just sit here and go, from what I have friends and what they're telling me, with their lungs got messed up from COVID, and then now him having these type of reactions. I'm not going to hold it against him. I think he's a fantastic fighter. I'm just not sold yet on his ability to fight hard for 3 rounds, because how do I know you can fight hard for 5 rounds? I'm not trying to knock you. I know he's a savage. He's a tough fighter. He's got skills. But something happened in that process of his lungs getting messed up, and I don't know if he's the same fighter he was before he got COVID.
It's a good point.
Fair assessment.
It's a really good point. Yep.
And since when, though? Since when did we start taking Dana for his word anyways? You're next in line for a title shot. Come on, guys. Come on, fighters. You guys got to stop that stuff. Don't do handshake deals, okay? Don't do that
Stop
stuff.
believing.
Don't do that stuff. Before we carry on, though, make sure you guys subscribe to our show here. Hit the little subscribe button down below. You can also hit the subscribe button on onlyfans.com/weighing-in. Hit the subscribe button over there. Got extra content for you guys. We're going to be doing some lives there this week because we got to do them this week before the month comes to an end. So we want to make sure that we, you guys join us over there, subscribe to us over there. It is free subscription at onlyfans.com/weighing-in. Guys, like my little OnlyFans over here on the side. I got that. I also got my little shirt today. So flossing it, but hey, follow us and subscribe to us over there. It is free.
Pimping like a mother.
You know, it feels a little bit more like when John and I do our lives over there. It feels a little bit more free. There's a lot more connection with the people that are listening to us. They actually right away get their answers to their questions. We talk for a good 30, anywhere between 25 to 45 minutes, depending. John and I have a tendency to sometimes just to ramble on, like I'm doing right now. But make sure you guys subscribe to us on our YouTube channel as well as our Clips channel, and also over here on our onlyfans.com/weighing-in. Dave, what else you got for us, buddy?
Yep. Now, Chris Cyborg has come out and said, I am 10-0 since the fight with Amanda Nunes. And she's talking about a return to, maybe it's time to return to UFC, tags Dana White on X. Mm-hmm. Now, obviously, Dana has been vocal about not being out of the Cyborg business, but want to get your reaction there. Is this just kind of like, theatrics on X, or what do you think?
I'm going to tell you there's theatrics going on throughout all of it. Chris is in a position. She's got a contract. She may not like what's happening with her contract right now. She may not like what's being asked of her from the people who have now absorbed her contract, but they've got a contract on her. So she can sit there and say what she wants as far as going and fighting Amanda. That's great. But the people that she has a contract with right now, unless they break that contract, which they haven't done. In fact, they just let her box. She had a first round knockout, beautiful win, but she's going to have to fulfill part of the obligations as long as they hold up their end of the obligation. And what that end is her pay.
This is a lot of this is a lot of gamesmanship right here. That's exactly what this is.
Was that not beautifully done?
No, it was. I'm talking about on her part though too. She knows exactly what she's doing. I'm 10-0. Amanda's talking about coming back. Dana said that he's out of the fight business. Dana's never out of the fight business when it can make him money. He's not out of the Chris Cyborg business.
He would be back in the Cyborg business as fast as he could possibly move if it was going to make him big money.
Yeah. And that fight, you could headline that fight again with the knockout, the way that it happened the first time.
Oh yeah.
The exchanges they had in that first round, all of that stuff, and then her coming back to the UFC. I mean, it would make headlines.
With Amanda coming out of retirement.
Yes, it would make headlines.
Oh,
absolutely, it would make headlines. In terms of she does have a contract with the PFL. It's letting. I look at this and I say it's letting the PFL know that you guys need to toe the line, or at least get on the same page as me as us trying to work together. So I can grow my career some more, my brand and my career. She's been very clear about what her brand is. She's like, I'm building my brand. I'm not helping to build yours. We're going to do ours together. Sure.
Well, we'll do it together,
but I'm going to build mine. Mine needs to be built. So that means you need to keep me active. I need to be fighting everybody at the highest level. If you don't have any people at the highest level, then let's find me another avenue to go ahead and make money. She seemed a little upset that the PFL never did any type of promotion or help push her boxing match like they do with Francis Ngannou. That's already been put out there. Doesn't seem like things are going the way that she would like, but there's still a lot to be had. There's a lot that needs to be worked out. Anytime there's an exchange of a purchase or a buyout of another company, There's so many loose ends that need to be tied up. It's going to take a year. I mean, it's going to take some time.
It's not easy.
And so, the fighters should be the first people to pretty much get taken care of, but it's not always that way. Like, she had a fight lined up with boxing. So they're like, okay, we'll put her on the back burner until after that fight. If she gets cut, then why are we going to schedule something or get people talking about it until after all this? So they let that fight happen. She's ready to fight now. Now Kayla's having some contract stuff. Let all this dust settle. I think with Chris, she really wants to be active. She wants to fight again right away. She's not able to. Nothing you can do. The promotion's got to do their business too to make everyone else happy, not just one fighter. So I see both sides. But this was nice little gamesmanship by Chris, letting them know, hey, I can also go back to the UFC. I don't know if that's true or not, but I believe it will be. If Amanda comes back, I believe it is. If Amanda comes back, and then if Chris wins, then they're going to have a 3. That's another 2. That's another year and a half of putting things together. So there's plenty of time. But little gamesmanship right there from Chris Cyborg. She's letting them know.
All right, so in that same kind of vein, Dana White being out of these not entertaining these ideas. He's asked about UFC 300 and who's coming back. He did say that we shouldn't expect anything out of left field for this. He's just going to kind of set it up to be every fight is must see, which I think so far that speaks true. But he's ruled out Ronda coming back. He's ruled out GSP coming back. He's ruled out Lesnar coming back.
Have we not said that, though?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And so I guess the question to you guys is, do you want nostalgia here, or are you excited about the future of the sport being present on UFC 300? I guess that's one of the questions. Or do you have any other thoughts on it?
Well, I saw another clip that Ariel had did yesterday, I believe. Also, there was like on social media.
Well, you're watching Ariel a lot.
Well, I had people sending me over the thing with the Strickland situation yesterday, and then I saw another clip about how he talked about DDP and Izzy. I've been saying that since before, so I'm glad he listens to our show. It makes me feel good about that. But if there was going to be a main event, because the main event they have in place right now is still to be determined type thing, I could see them sliding DDP and Izzy in there. And I said this over a month ago. It was all perfect. It would be picture perfect for them. Izzy saying that he's ready to come back, but it's going to probably jump in camp around March. But look, money does a lot of weird things to fighters. Izzy's at a stage.
No.
Izzy's at a stage too, where the excitement of fighting DDP will get him back in the gym today, maybe even probably last week. And DDP coming out and say, look, all I took was a couple little, a small little cut under my eye. My eye's a little swollen. It'll go down in a day or two, which it will, as long as he takes care of it. And the stitches in the eye, right below the eye or whatever it is, probably just 5 days, 7 days, no contact, maybe even up to 2 weeks, no contact. But that doesn't mean you can't do cardio. Just keep the pace, keep going, run, stay in shape, hit mitts, hit the bag. All that stuff is available. That fight come in March, you'll be in great shape, both fighters, within that period of time. It's not like Izzy left 2 years ago. He literally left 4 months ago, 5 months ago. He's been gone for 4 or 5 months. That's a break for some fighters.
It's a normal break.
It's a normal break. So what I don't understand, as if he couldn't just get back in shape. He could. He'll be fine. So I believe that that's still going to potentially be your main event.
Why? Let me ask you that. Why is it, when people bring up these names, bring up Ronda Rousey, George St. Pierre, Brock Lesnar.
I heard Habib. I heard that too.
That's because Habib was in the gym working out with Javier Mendez. I mean, that makes you, that's your reason that, he's coming back. If there was a guy that I would look at and say, well, there's two of them, George St. Pierre and Habib, two of the smartest guys there is as far as their fighting careers. George is smart enough to know when, no, it's a bad fight for me. Why would I do that? Why am I going to put my legacy on the line when it's really just about dollars? You got to look and say what's valuable. Is it worth that much? Ronda Rousey has not fought a damn MMA fight in how long? Back 2017, that was her last one, or was it 2018? I want to say it was 2017. That's a long time. We're talking 7 years. That's crazy to think that she's just going to
16.
jump back in. 16.
The last day, pretty
Jesus.
much.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. What's all right? So 27, 7 years. That's you expect her to jump back in and it's going to be a great fight. It's not. Brock Lesnar. I love Brock. He's a great guy. He's a monster of a fucking man. When you look at him, you go, God damn, he's thick. He's freaking how old now? You should know right off the top of your head, Dave.
Like
but Brock's got to be 45, 46. Okay. He was never a great fighter. He was a big heavyweight in a weight class that didn't have a lot of people that could wrestle, and his wrestling worked for him until he showed that he didn't like getting hit. Why am I going to want to watch Brock go in a fight where who's he going to fight? Who? It's crazy. I want to see good competition. I don't care. You don't have to dredge up, the stars of the past. They got enough stars now. There are stars out there in the UFC. There's people that, people want to see fight. You don't have to, there's no reason to watch again, and nothing against Brock, 46 years old. No, there's no reason for me to watch Brock fight anymore. He's done. He's a pro wrestler. He's a great guy. Let him be.
Yeah, if he wants to fight a YouTuber, I might tune in, but that's about it.
There you go. I have no problem with that.
No, I feel like there's so much flack on this UFC 300. Like they're expecting some Greek god to come down and challenge GSP and Habib, and I'm like,
crazy.
This is a really good card. I am looking.
It's an unbelievable card.
Yeah.
Even without, we don't even know who the main event is, but the card itself is fantastic.
I mean, outside of Conor right now, the ones that are available, John Jones being injured, Izzy's the next biggest draw, I think, out of all the champs. And that would put him right there against
Volkanovski's right up there.
Yeah, Volk is absolutely. Volk is, but he's fighting previously, so he'll be out. But he is with Izzy being the guy, and then also with DDP, you have a whole country now behind you with Africa, but maybe not a whole country, but at least the southern part. They're going to be supporting him. And so when I'm looking at who potentially slide into that main event, that's the only fight that really made sense to me. Khamzat getting over that rash or whatever it was he had all over his body. He said he's back training now. Kamaru Usman, not really sure what's going on, what he's going to do right now. It seems like he's up in the air. He is training. I saw him playing golf with Justin Gaethje the other day. Gaethje down at Kill Cliff, getting some training in down there in Florida. So he's got his fight with Max Holloway. There's a lot of fighters that are out there doing their thing. But what's a big name value fight that you can see slide in there? And the only one that I could really see slide in there would be Izzy and DDP in terms of a big time pay-per-view. Or if Alex was to drop down back down to 85 and fight DDP.
Well,
but it doesn't it doesn't have the same.
Alex didn't drop down, he could go up.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, DDP could go up. I just don't see it. I would see like more of a storyline though, is because of the history of the N-word being thrown around inside the cage by Izzy and to DDP, and then all the back and forth back. They've already done a full almost press tour around all that. So why not get that fight together? It's the fight that makes the most sense. But that's where I would, if it was me in charge, if I was a Dana White for a day, that'd be the fight I'd be trying to make. Not saying it's gonna come, but I would say that.
But Izzy has come out saying he will not be fighting him.
There you go. And
so,
you'd be surprised what fighters will do for money.
There you
go. I mean, I'm sure when Kamaru Usman was sitting on the couch, he didn't think to himself, "Yeah, I'm going to go fight Khamzat Chimaev, in 7 days." I don't think he thought that, but be surprised with money.
He did as soon as someone put a certain number in front of him.
That's right. There you go.
That's the way to do it.
What you got for us, Dave?
All right, I'm going to let you talk this one, Josh, because I don't even see this in the news headlines.
This isn't an MMA thing, though. It will be an MMA thing, but it's not. It's not an MMA thing right now. You have the Ferrari brothers down there at Kill Cliff Gym, but you also, there's a lot going on with this situation, John, as you know. just I don't even know.
Go ahead. Come on.
I don't even know
Come
how
on,
to get
baby.
into this. I don't even know how to get into
Yes, you do. Just go.
He's got a lot of baggage that comes along with him.
Who does he remind you of, though, when you think about it?
Looks wise or personality?
No, not looks wise.
I was like, looks wise.
Background of wrestling and the personality that he brings a lot of baggage. Pat Downey.
Yes. Yep. No, I get it. It's the
look.
Go ahead.
AJ Ferrari can wrestle his ass off.
Yep.
He is a stud. His last wrestling match, which he actually won, if you look at it.
Yeah.
But then he got disqualified by the referee after the match was over. But I don't know. Yeah.
From inside, like kind of just from inside stories, I'm hearing that he's kind of wrapping up his collegiate career. It doesn't sound like he's gonna be wrestling. It sounds like he's gonna spend some time down at Kill Cliff and see if that's the gym for him. I could see that being the gym for him. There's a lot of guys there that can help mold him and shape him. You've got the guys that you need. You got Gilbert Burns to help him with his jiu-jitsu. You got Logan Story to kind of mentor him a little
Robbie
bit.
Lawler.
The wrestling. You've got Kamaru Usman that's there. You got Robbie Lawler. I think he'll fit right in with those guys. Now, the Pat Downey situation does ring a bell with him in terms of like, can you keep him under control? We're not going to deny the fact that he's a hard worker. You don't get that good at wrestling by not being a hard worker. It's just that the attitude, the conflict with the other fighters, will that happen in a room full of just killers? He's going to get humbled pretty quick because wrestling's not going to get it done. It will not just be wrestling that gets it done in that room. Got guys like Jason Jackson who can wrestle, maybe not at the level of AJ, but he can definitely, put some hands on you to make you worry about taking your shot from certain positions. You got Logan Starley who can for sure wrestle with him. You've got Kamaru Usman who probably can for sure still wrestle with him, but it's going to be
maybe not because of the knees.
But then you've just got all these guys that are there and available to kind of help mentor him and get him there and get him to the level that he needs to be. His wrestling mixed with a little bit of jiu-jitsu defense as well as some offense. I think you can see him fight within a 6-month period. You got Jordan Oliver's down there too.
There you go.
So there's another guy.
A little bit difference in weight
a
class.
Little bit difference in weight class, but having somebody that has wrestled at the highest level in Jordan Oliver and understanding like, hey, let me just try to guide you just a tiny bit. That's all you got to do, man. That's it. That's where you're at right now. So, I mean, both of them, Jordan Oliver coming from Oklahoma State, AJ also Oklahoma State, like just knowing that, and then left, went to Iowa, but then you understand, like it's that personality. I think Jordan Oliver could actually help guide him and get him to where he needs to be. I'm looking forward to it. I think if he really just uproots his life and takes it down to Kill Cliff, he's got a great chance of making a good run. He's a hard worker, obviously, or he wouldn't be in the position he's in. He just got to dial down the temper, and I think some of that will come naturally, only because he's gonna have to end up being humbled in that inside that.
Do
room.
you put him in the same category as like a Bo Nickel though?
Yeah, I would, but if they were to wrestle, I would say probably Bo. But I'm saying though,
it would be close.
Yeah, and but I feel also too, Bo is very the temperament is the biggest thing. Bo is very focused and driven on what his goal is. His goal is not to let anything get in the way.
Very mature.
Yes. AJ's got to figure this out, man. Because look, you're losing hundreds of thousands of dollars in NIL deal. And then you lost all that. That was something that could have carried you over after you got done wrestling in college. Could have carried you over into your fight career, at least kept you on track to where you could afford to get a place in Florida. You could afford to do this and afford to do that. Like maybe money's not an issue for you, but it's just nice to have that to fall back on going, hey, if I need to get training partners to come in and help me train a little bit, I can fly one in. If I don't need training partners, maybe I need to get a new place with, a sauna, a hyperbaric chamber, whatever it is. You have access to money to help you grow, bring a nutrition in to help me with my training, because it's different than having to do it for wrestling. The way I eat nutrition wise for wrestling will be a little bit different than the way I eat for a fight, because I'm training 2-3 times a day versus training maybe once in the morning, then having a 10-hour gap and then training again later in the evening, and going to school during the day. So there's a difference on how you take care of your body when you're in college wrestling versus when you're a professional athlete. So I'm looking forward to seeing how he grows. He's just got to dial down the temperament, and I think some of that will come because these guys are going to humble him a little bit inside that room. You got to learn that they're going to make him fall in line, John.
Come on, man. There's no way that you can go into a place, no matter how good a wrestler you are, and not be humbled at times on the mat by people that know a skill set like the level that is at Kill Cliff. You know, you got guys that were world champions in jiu-jitsu. They're going to catch you when you don't understand what they're doing. Once you know, different story.
Yeah. I use this story all the time. The first time I ever grappled with BJ Penn, he tapped me like 4 or 5 times within like a 3 or 4 minute period with the same damn move. It was, we started off on the butt, basically was able to sweep me, get back up to half guard, pass the guard, right to mount. I tried to turn and get away and mount escape, and then he just went right to my back and trapped the arm with his leg, and next thing you know, you're tapping. Like it was, that's what he did. That's what he did back then. That's what he was able to do to me, and it was very humbling. And I'm just because I was beating everybody on the lower level shows, and then this guy comes, I'm like, this guy's not that good, and they're good. And when you take someone like an AJ Ferrari who's been the man, at the places he's been in the wrestling room, you're gonna have to eat some humble pie. And so we'll see how he takes it. We'll see if he can get along with those guys in that room. Hopefully he's got enough respect.
He could be really good, though. He could be really good.
He could be really good. He could. Yep. What else you got for us, Dave?
All right, here we go with this one. The Rock is appointed to the TKO group board. Here's a quote from The Rock. I'm very motivated to help continue to globally expand our TKO, WWE, and UFC businesses as the worldwide leaders in sports and entertainment. I want to get your thoughts on, how does The Rock help the UFC piece of this? Is it presence? Is it more presence at the shows to just kind of help drive audience? Is he creating superstars? Like, what do you guys think? Where does he make the impact?
I think some of it goes the opposite. Look, I'm gonna go a little bit more of the political way on this. He took a fucking pounding when he did that video in Hawaii with Oprah Winfrey. He took a fucking pounding.
Why?
It just seemed very fake, and all the money that went. Apparently, a lot of Hawaiians were saying that they never received any of the money. They don't know where the money went. No one's ever,
it's because it was a matching thing.
Oh, so look, I didn't follow into it too much. So he took a pounding in that situation. And then also too was on a mic, I think with Kevin Hart. I think it was Kevin Hart, and basically said that he wouldn't vote for Biden again. He made a
Joe
mistake.
Rogan.
I think was that on Rogan.
I think so. Yeah.
Okay, so I think this is now going the opposite direction. Let me join a company that is the complete opposite of what I've been attached to right now. I don't put anything past people's handlers when it comes to someone like The Rock, who they've got managers, they've got not press secretaries, but they've got people that handle their press. They've got everybody that points them in a bunch of different directions saying, hey, this is what you got to do now. This is what you got to do now. So when I look at this is one of those moves. I think financially it makes sense for him. I believe they paid him $30 million to in shares, I think is what they said. And now he's also gets a spot on the board. And it makes sense. He's been attached to the UFC for a while with their clothing line or their shoe brand, I believe, his shoe brand. And so there's a lot of reasons on why he should do it. The BMF title, was originally put around the waist, I believe, of Masvidal with him. Is that correct?
Yep.
So there's a lot of reasons he tends to get along with Dana, I believe, obviously, or he wouldn't be as involved with the UFC and showing up to shows as much as he does. Overall, I think it's a good thing for the UFC to be attached to him and him being attached to them, given them where they're at right now, for both of them. Maybe I'm wrong. What do you think?
No, I think it's a perfect matchup because he is involved with the UFC already. He was absolutely involved with the WWE. He's one of their biggest stars, there's been, and he's a sound businessman. Okay. Every one of us is going to make mistakes in, hey, we're going to do this and we get caught up in something and it doesn't go the way we thought, or, we had a bad plan to start off with. That can happen to anyone, but I do believe, look, he's got a good name for the most part.
Yeah.
Okay. And having that good name and having the background that he has, a guy that, look, he didn't come from a lot, You know, he has made himself who he is now, and he has a personality that people gravitate towards. And I've been there around him and stuff, and he's a gracious, guy. But all guys that never fought, like The Rock, they want to be kind of pushed into that. I'm part of the real fighting world too. And I think it helps him. It helps his brand. It's going to help his brand even more, being part of both of those. So I think it's a good thing for both him, and I think it's a good thing for TKO or IMG, WME, whatever you want to say.
I never watched him as a wrestler, ever.
Really?
I don't think I've seen one match of his ever. But what I did like was that when he came out,
you just disappointed the hell
out
of podcast Dave. Did you not hear that?
I don't think I've ever seen one full match of his. I've seen highlights. I've seen some of his trash talk. But
see then that's the part that I will say I didn't watch so much. But if there was two guys that I would say that I enjoyed listening to them on the mic, a lot of people are going to say Ric Flair and stuff like that, and Ric Flair is who he is. But The Rock and Steve Austin were absolutely freaking gold on the mic, and just the stuff that they would say and how they would say it and the timing. That's why he's in the position he is in Hollywood. Look, he's a great actor.
Yeah. But I wasn't until I saw him in Hollywood that I realized someone that can go from being the machismo guy on the WWE to taking some of these roles that he was taking and having success. I remember, I think one of the first movies, if not the first movie he did, was Scorpion King. Yeah. And it was very bad CGI on some of the stuff.
So you could go to Randy Couture's Scorpion King where he was the bad guy. Horrible. They even changed his whole voice.
It was so bad. But then he went from there to doing like some like nanny stuff and like parent. It was very fun. It was like more kid type movies. And then he went back into like comedy stuff with Kevin Hart.
But he's self-deprecating. He can laugh at himself.
Yeah.
He can make fun,
and it wasn't until I started seeing him in those type of movies that I started going, you know what? I really like this guy. This guy's fantastic. Good stuff, and the growth of that was definitely something that I really enjoyed. Those are the type of people that I enjoy like watching in sports and everything else. So I thought he did a great job. Dave, can you pull up the Steve Austin thing that I sent you guys a while back? Remember we were talking about with John?
No. Oh my God, that's great. That is fantastic.
These are the type of people that go from the machismo thing to that. That is
here. Hold on, we have to clarify all of this because Josh did send me this little tape of Steve Austin because obviously one of these cold plunges gave Steve Austin a cold plunge. And one of the things you got to do when you get something like that is you've got to show yourself using it, and plug the company. And that's fair. And it should be done. And I finally found someone whose kryptonite of cold water is right there with mine, because I all the time talk about, if there's something I cannot stand, I hate cold water. I mean, it is absolutely brutal to me. And Josh sends me this. He says, "Hey, look, this is like you." And I watched it, and he was in there for not even, just waist deep, basically.
Yeah.
He was in there for 2 seconds and got out. I said, he handled that a whole lot better than I could have.
He said, "Hey guys, I'm going to have to revisit this motherfucker.
I'm going to have to revisit this." Yeah. He couldn't even get the lines out. "This is Steve Austin, Broke Skull Ranch." God damn motherfucker.
All right, Dave, play the video.
Is it the first one there? Yeah.
I believe so, yeah. It was the first time he tried getting in there.
Oh, look at
He's got his clock in his hands. So you guys are listening at home. Yeah. He's got his clock in his hands, watch, and he's supposed to be in there for 3 minutes.
He's not even balls deep.
No,
yet.
He's only like knee level. He's like maybe mid thighs.
Yeah.
But I want the part that I want you guys to pay attention to is he's trying to say to the people listening.
God damn it.
Watch.
Hey, what's up, everybody? It's Steve coming through Broke Skull Ranch. I got this. Hey, what's up, everybody? Steve coming to the Broken Skull Run. Hey, what's up, everybody? Steve coming to the
third take.
About to do my first cold plunge and renew therapy. My
Now, this
shop
is the
says
best.
43 degrees right now, so I'm sure the water is sub 50. I was going to start off at 50. It's going to be a little bit colder than that. And we're going 3 minutes here. Once it gets on to 12.
Gonna go 3 minutes.
4, 3, 2, down we go.
Down he goes.
Ha ha ha! Son of a bitch! Ha! Ha!
15 seconds. 13 seconds.
13, 14 seconds. He's up and out, man.
Listen to him though.
Revisit this motherfucker.
I'm gonna have to revisit this motherfucker.
Now you got to admit, when I typed to you, I said, "Hey, I'm just telling you, he handled that a whole lot better than I could have."
Well, he's got to know. Like, I think when you do things like you have to tell people what you're going to do before you get in there.
Oh, dude.
He got in there and was trying to explain it, like what he was going to do. Just explain.
You know the needles that are going into his legs with the cold water and stuff. He's just dying. I mean, it's like,
and
that was classic. I love that, and that's why I love that dude. He's just who he is.
John, I have a cold plunge, and the first thing I do when I get in the cold plunge, dunk my whole body, my head, everything.
Oh, geez.
I know
Brutal.
it sucks, but it makes me feel like it's so much easier to get acclimated to the water right away. Soon as I dunk my whole head, I come back up. I'm like, okay, it's cold, it's painful, but then your body kind of relaxes for a sec. When I only go like chest deep, it's the worst. It feels
there is no relaxation ever.
But that was one of the funniest videos.
I told you the story about my wife and her phone, right?
Where she left it again somewhere?
Oh no. We had a place right on the it's called the Channel Islands Harbor in California. And in the wintertime, the water in California is about 50 degrees. Somewhere there. And we had this little dock, and it had this little, basic storage area that you could put your stuff in with the boat that was there, and you put a lock on it. And my wife, my daughter, goes and buys her a waterproof case, because at the time iPhones were not waterproof, right? And buys her this waterproof case for her phone, right? And she puts her phone on the damn box that's for storage, and then decides to lift the lid, and the phone goes dink 15 feet down, right? And she goes, "My phone." and she's looking at me, and she knows I hate cold water, right? And she goes, I can't go down that deep. Right? And I go, "God damn it, I am son of a bitch." And I'm thinking about it, right? And it's like, and I said, so my first thing is, all right, I'm gonna call it to see if that motherfucker's still working, because I don't want to go down there and that case doesn't work, right? So sure enough, I call it, I'm looking, and I see it. It actually lands face up, and you can see it. It lights up, right?
Oh, shit.
Man, it took me about 15 minutes to finally say, all right, and then jump in, go down there, get that damn phone. I hate cold water, man. Cold water. It happened from college when I played water polo, and they made us go into that damn freaking ocean water all the time, swimming around freaking Belmont shores in Long Beach. I hate it. Hate it. Torture.
I could see too, Miss McCarthy going, "Yeah, you can go get that anytime now. Go ahead." To wrap this up though, and to finish this up, I've noticed that a couple fighters have been announcing that they've been released from the PFL even before the first event.
Really?
So,
who?
Josh Hill, Mike Hamill, Sidney Outlaw, Carl Brexton, Joey Davis, Jalen Bates, Jornell Lugo, Sabah Hamasi, Josh Hill, Diana Asaragova. Yep. A couple others that are in there. But I've seen a couple of the fighters. Josh Hill made it pretty public, going, "Hey, so much for us being able to at least get an opportunity." So he was pretty frustrated, but just something to kind of keep an eye on to see who is making the cut and who is not, and who's making the transition on over. But I wish all those fighters the very best of luck, and hopefully you guys find your way into another promotion or somewhere else. And then
you got to look, and you said one name in there that Sabaho Masi. You talk about a guy that puts on entertaining fights, that just goes out there and either puts his sword through someone or falls on it. Man, the dude fights.
Mm-hmm.
It's not the kind of guy you want to get rid of, in my opinion.
Yeah, Shamil Nakayev, him also. He was undefeated.
Oh my God.
I think he is still undefeated. No, he lost to Mike Hamill his last fight.
Yeah.
So that's one guy. Mike Hamill is another guy that normally fights his ass off.
A dog.
Fights at 45, fights at 55. I think he's staying at 55 now. But the other one that kind of surprised me was Sidney Outlaw. He's ranked in the top 7 or 8, whatever it is. I know he's come up short on his last fight. I believe he lost his last fight.
Yeah, he lost to AJ.
Yeah, AJ. So in that fight, but he was still in that top 5 or 6 or 7 or 8, wherever he was at. There's not a ton of really, really good 55-pounders out there, especially in the grappling area. So I was kind of surprised by that one as well. So Joey Davis is because he's just inactive, just doesn't.
Yeah.
He got his first loss. He hasn't been the same since he took some steps away from the sport, came back and had a loss. Josh Hill's a good fighter as well. I really enjoy watching him fight. So there's a lot of fighters that are in that list.
But you got to be honest about things. Josh Hill at 135, getting up in age.
Mm-hmm.
He's what, 36, 37?
Something maybe. Not
somewhere
sure.
right close to that.
Okay.
I could be wrong about it, but had some good fights in Bellator. Had some, fought tough guys the whole time. Wasn't able to get past some of them, but 37 years of age at 135. Yeah. You got to look and say probably making more money than a lot of guys. So
yep.
It's a tough one.
Carl Brexton also, Jalen Bates, Jornel Lugo.
I'm surprised about Jalen Bates because Jalen Bates can fight.
Yeah,
that kid's going to be good, and he's young.
Yeah. And then
Buddy's in 135.
Yeah,
and they don't have a 135 division.
Saragova, did she fight? Did she ever fight in PFL?
No.
It was the Mahaknaktina.
Yeah.
She was in
Marina.
Marina. Her and then Jesse Roberts. She was also let go. So that's just a handful of the ones. I've got some people that are sending me some more names. It seems like the list is gonna grow here pretty soon.
It's growing.
But I want to wish all those fighters the very best of luck, and hopefully we see you guys in another promotion, building yourselves back better, and getting back into a major organization here soon. So this is the shitty part of when one promotion folds up into the other, and we got to make some tough decisions. So shitty situation. Wish you guys all the best of luck. And before we go to WayneInMerch.com, WayneInMerch.com. Pick up some of our hoodies, our sweaters, our hats, our beanies. All the stuff is available there. Also, thank you guys so much, and subscribe to us on our Clips channel here as well as on our main channel. Hit that subscribe button, hit the little bell notifications. It's gonna be a slow week, man. No fights this weekend, John. What are we gonna do?
I know what I'm gonna do. I don't want to do it, but I'm gonna go do it. So.
Well, hey, safe travels to you, my man, and hopefully
Thanks,
we
sir.
will see you next week. And John, we will
see ya.